It's summer. I am literally delighted to say those words. It's summer, it's happening, it's hot. That means for about 3 to 4 days in Britain, we have an unbroken period of time where it's hot and it's not gonna rain. Now, if you live in this country, you know what that means. That means you have to get out there and enjoy it. There is almost a panicked vibe out there. Like, if you don't go out there and start enjoying the summer right now, you might miss it. By Sunday, it may be over. The rain will come and it will end. So you need to get out there. I went for a walk yesterday and I literally saw just a group of people having a giant picnic in their front garden. And it looked like they'd just taken a bunch of blankets and a bunch of food and bottles of rosé that they were drinking straight from the bottle and just thrown them out of their window into their garden and were just lying there. This is what you need to be doing right now. There's not much else going on in Brexit Britain that's good right now. It's all kind of grim. All we have is the weather and the fact that it's the summer, so we might as well enjoy it. So what I wanted to do this week was summer books, summer vibes, a summer energy, set in the summer, a summer when everything changes, oppressive heat, a holiday, staying in a house that you wouldn't normally live in. Those things are all great summer novel classics. I love reading kind of seasonally and reading summer books during the summer and winter books during the winter, you know, getting cozy in the autumn. And summer books, I think, are a really nice way to sort of feel transported. Whether you are going away or not, it's a really good opportunity to maybe just whoosh out of your mind and into another life, into another time and place where it's hot. And, you know, in 3 days' time, when it's raining, we can still enjoy that hot atmosphere of some of these novels. Also, maybe not even set in the summer, but give me the vibe of summer. Maybe I read it in the summer and it's now intrinsically linked in my mind with the summer, and now I'm going to force that upon you as well, and we can continue that cycle. A lot of people have been doing hot girl summer reads, which I love the concept of, but I'm not a hot girl. I have never had a hot girl summer in my life. I probably won't ever in my life. I don't have the energy. I don't have the hot girl energy. I don't have the hot girl mentality. I don't think even when I was like 18, I had a hot girl summer. I think I had a hot mess summer, but I don't think I've ever had a hot girl summer. So I am absolutely not the person to tell you which books you should read if you want to have a hot girl summer. But this is going to be books that will put you in a summer feeling and exude summer energy. I love it. I love summer. Let's just do it. So to start off with a quintessential holiday read, The Talented Mr. Ripley by Patricia Highsmith. That's it. If you haven't read that book, just stop this video right now and just go and read it. That's literally all you need. That book will make your whole summer reading experience. Just go and read it. Even if you watch the film, because I watched the film so long ago and I only read the book recently, and I was like, oh my God, I was missing out. The book is so good. It's a 1955 psychological crime thriller set in Italy. I mean, that's it. What else do you need? What else do you want from me? A psychological crime thriller in 1950s Italy. Do I need to go on? Let's just get on with it. Let's go and read the book. I want to read the book now. I want to read the book again. I read it in the winter, which was not the time, but I felt like I was there. I felt like I was in Italy, scorching hot summer. The main character, Tom Ripley, is given the task of bringing this other young man, Dickie Greenleaf, back to America from Italy, where he's been kind of living it up, living the high life, and his family want him to return back to America to take on the family business and to be a sensible adult man. So Tom Ripley is basically a sociopath, and he goes to Italy, becomes completely head over heels obsessed with Dickie, wants to be him, wants to kind of just take on his whole life, his persona. He is everything that he wants to be and feels that he isn't. He is confident, he's kind of sociable, he's got all these attributes that Tom wants to have, and he becomes completely obsessed with him and kind of entangles himself in Dickie's life. It's an incredible portrayal of a sociopath, because at the same time as he's being completely unlikable and terrible, you are also utterly rooting for him and in a way wanting him to triumph even though he's the baddie. So it puts you in this like really fun space of being inside his mind, and the scheming and the plotting, all the lying, the manipulation. It's just a page turner. It's amazing. It's a crime thriller and I was thrilled by it. It was so good. Suspense, intrigue, top tier storytelling, amazingly drawn characters, and all of this with the backdrop of 1950s Italy in the summer. I mean, it's perfection. I haven't read the other books in the series. It's the first of 5 novels, and I haven't read the rest because I'm almost too scared to do it. I'm too scared that the others won't be as good as this first one, that it will somehow ruin it for me, that it will take away the perfection of this first novel, which is just really silly because actually the other 4 might also be incredible and it could just continue. I will read some of the other ones. I'm just not ready yet because I'm nervous, but I'll do it. I will. If they're anywhere near as good as this first one, then I'm an idiot not to have done it already. So I should probably just get on with it. But as a standalone book, The Talented Mr. Ripley is just an incredible, iconic summer book. Perfect summer novel to just sit back and be completely transported by. I loved it. Can't recommend it enough. Staying in Italy, my next recommendation isn't actually technically a summer read, but it screams summer to me. I don't know if I first read this in the summer or just because summer things, summer holidays and things, trips feature quite prominently in it. It's irrelevant. I'm calling it a summer book. I don't care. It's Elena Ferrante. My Brilliant Friend is the first of the 4 Neapolitan books, the Neapolitan novels, which are, I'm not gonna lie, they're not small. If you're planning to go on a trip, this is not light. This will set you back perhaps a few kilograms. So, you know, ebook readers exist. The first one of these is the one that you should start, well, chronologically. Obviously, you'll start with the first one. Don't start with the third one. That would be ridiculous. Obviously, the first one is where you will start with. On the whole, all 4 of the books are just the most incredible body of work. I heard so much about these books and people talk about them with such fondness. And having read them, I completely understand why. These people are my friends. They're my family. I went through everything with them. We went through hell and back. I would die for these characters. So the first of these is a very classic coming of age novel, a Bildungsroman, which is one of my favourite genres and I love reading all the time anyway. But altogether, all 4 of the books are kind of building a picture of these 2 women. So it follows them from childhood all the way through adulthood, and it follows whole families. It's just so epic. It's like a sprawling epic, which is also my second favourite genre. So actually it manages to be both, which is perfect. People have called this the great Italian novel, one of the great Italian novels at least. I think we can easily say that. So it tells the story of these 2 women, but in the minutiae of telling the story about the women, it tells the story of a country. It tells the story of their neighbourhood, of their families, and it's just this incredible portrayal of 2 women's lives, just their whole lives, from being children, from growing up to having their own families and having their own children, the relationship between families, the relationship between different generations, the relationship between friends, and, you know, this tight friendship that forms in childhood between the 2 main characters that we follow through the ebbs and flows of their lives. They come together and then they kind of come apart as they live their separate lives, but then they're drawn back together, and they're kind of these touchstones for each other, that they kind of always are there for each other throughout life. The center of the book, the heart of the book, is this friendship between the two main characters. And the character development is everything. It's incredible. The way that it's written, these people are so real. Like, you truly, because you're with them for such a long time, you feel like you've just grown up with them. It feels like they're someone that you've been alongside as they've grown up. They've changed as a person. They've learned from their mistakes. They're fully rounded, real people with flaws and imperfections, and not like, oh, they're flawed characters. Like, flawed character is not a characterization. It's more that they are really just truly real. They're sometimes selfish, sometimes they're unpleasant, sometimes they're wrong, and you see that and you kind of feel it with them the whole time. Like, when they're angry or upset or wronged, you just feel that so strongly, and you're like, bless you, Matilda. You're just there for every step of the way. It's just incredibly done. I don't know if I've read a book like this ever. I don't think I could compare it to anything else. The feeling of reading all 4 of these books, and I read them fairly quickly because I was like in it. I wanted to read them all. So I didn't like dash through them, but I did read them kind of one after the other over a period of, I don't know, months probably, because they're not small, they're big books. And just the feeling of like living in this story is like nothing else. I love them. They're just so good. If you haven't read these books, for God's sake, just read them. Just try the first one and see how you get on. If you like the first one, you will probably like the others. There are some that are better than others. There are some parts of the story that I enjoyed more than others. I think the beginning is very strong. If you get into this first book, you will want to stick with it for the others. I always think with series like this, they should sell them as like one and then the rest. Because to buy all of them together in a series is quite a commitment, because what if you don't like it? But then if you bought the first one, you then have to buy the other separately. So I always think it'd be really smart of publishers to sort of sell a one and the rest series. Publishing companies, you can have that one for free. But yeah, Elena Ferrante is amazing. She's got several other books that you could also try. If you want to dip a toe into Elena Ferrante, you could definitely read one of the other books. But I haven't enjoyed any of them as much as I enjoyed this. You can't shortcut your way into this kind of commitment. You can't, in a short novel, build this picture of a life and of a neighborhood and of multiple generations where you just feel so heavily invested, like these people are literally your family. It's impossible, I think, to do that in such a deep way without going on that whole journey. And I think it's so worth doing. So if that sounds appealing, I would just say go for it. Try the first one. If you like it, then get the other 3 and fully immerse yourself in the Neapolitan series, Neapolitan novels. I still think about these characters all the time. I haven't watched the TV show, which actually looks really good, because I just didn't want to get my idea of the characters out of my head. Like, they're so fully formed to me. They're my friends, they're my family. We know each other so well, and I just didn't want to replace that with like a fully formed vision of someone else's idea of them. If you've been intrigued, let this be your sign. Now is a perfect time to read the Neapolitan novels. Start with this one. You won't regret it. And one more thing about Italy, very Italy heavy. I think I'm missing Italy. I need to go back to Italy. I'm having some kind of Italian existential crisis. But if you enjoyed the Elena Ferrante novels and you would like something in a similar vein, may I recommend Family Lexicon by Natalia Ginzburg, which is very similar in spirit. Not the same, you can't really compare the two, but if you're looking for another hit of family life in Italy, this may tide you over. This may give you another, if you've finished the Neapolitan novels and are bereft and needing something else in your life, or if you've read them previously and you are hankering after more Italian content, like apparently I am, this is another great book that I highly recommend. It's a kind of semi-autobiographical, I believe it's autobiographical in its details, in the story and the names that are featured, but it's written very much like a novel. It doesn't feel like a biography or a memoir, it's a biographical novel and very much reads like a novel. It's the story of an Italian family living in Italy between the 30s, maybe late 20s, through to the 50s. So it's before and during the Second World War. We see kind of this cast of characters and this family at the heart of the story, which is so beautifully written, and it really just encompasses the feeling of family, I think, so wonderfully, in the way that they talk to each other and their kind of jokes that they have, and the funny stories that are, you know, passed down from funny things that the kids maybe did years ago, or funny like names that they call each other, or just a certain way that they do things, or a meal that they make, that these tiny like things that make up a family, the tiny events that bring these people together. It's a chronicle of a family and a really sort of intimate portrait of a family told with so much charm and humour, while at the same time there's this backdrop of Italy, and over the number of years the kind of wartime fascism and all of the kind of Italy and turmoil issues become less background and more part of their story, and it's just interwoven with their real normal lives, and it's just done beautifully. I really loved it. I really enjoyed kind of the feeling of, you feel like you're sitting around a table with these people and you like become part of their family. If that is something that sounds like it's up your alley, I would recommend for this summer. Leaving Italy, finally, we're now back in Britain. We're in England, and it's L.P. Hartley, The Go-Between. This is set in England in 1900, so before the two world wars. It was published in 1953. I read a quote that when he was writing this book, he wanted to evoke the feeling of that summer and the long stretch of fine weather, and also the confidence in life, to believe that all was well with the world, which everyone seemed to enjoy before the First World War. All was well. There was nothing to worry about other than normal pedestrian kind of issues. This is the story of a lower middle class boy who is at boarding school, and one of his friends is a much wealthier child. I think they're both 13 or so. And for the summer, he goes to stay with his rich little friend in his big country house, and he's kind of out of depth. He gets himself into some situations that are beyond him, is the best way of describing it. He gets kind of drawn into this relationship, this affair between the daughter of the family, who is this beautiful young aristocratic woman, and a local farmer, and he becomes the go-between, as the titular character. He becomes a go-between and is kind of ferrying messages and letters between these two people, at first thinking that they're kind of business letters and that everything is above board. But as things develop, that is not the case. And this young boy is kind of completely out of his depth in what he's got embroiled into and what he's become a part of. Edwardian society, aristocratic family, forbidden love, repressed sexual desire, a coming of age story, a summer that changes everything. If that sounds like Atonement, then you would be correct. Ian McEwan, who wrote Atonement, read this when he was 14, and he said that it essentially inspired him to become a writer, and that Atonement was kind of an homage to this book. So if it sounds familiar, then that is definitely what it is. And I loved Atonement, and I also really loved this. And it has, of course, got one of the greatest opening lines of all time. The past is a foreign country, they do things differently there. So if that doesn't make you want to read what the hell else happens in this book, I don't know what will. That's such a good opener. But yeah, great book, very atmospheric, great pace. It's not slow, it's not fast, it's really well paced, and you will be intrigued. You'll be intrigued to find out what's going to happen in this book. A good atmospheric summer read. And another Penguin modern classic, it's Penelope Lively's Heatwave. This is like a small scale drama. It's a quite internal drama. It's a short, small, quite quick to read novel. It's set during this unusually hot summer, and it's about a woman in her 50s who decides to rent a cottage next to her daughter and her daughter's family, her husband and her baby. And in the summer, she kind of lives next to them and observes how her daughter's marriage is slowly unraveling due to infidelity, which makes her reflect on her own marriage, her own life, and what happened in her own marriage. And it's just a very subtly done characterization. It's a very internal kind of drama. It's not a big splashy drama, but it's really just beautifully told. The pacing is just right. It's incredibly evocative of a hot summer. You just really feel like you're there, and there is a kind of subtle air of unrest. And it's very subtle. That's what I would say about this book. Subtle, atmospheric, but very beautifully done. And I found it very evocative of a certain time and place. I mentioned it in a recent video and I said it was a perfect summer holiday book, so I have to mention it again. Bonjour Tristesse and A Certain Smile by Françoise Sagan. It's 2 separate novels in one book, so you can buy them separately. I believe the edition I had both of them in one book. They're both about young women and they have very strong holiday energy in both of them. It's about kind of coming of age, young adulthood, the very, what's the saying now? Big feelings, but this time it's the big feelings of being kind of 17, 18, 19. Those feelings of a kind of a new independence, of feeling like you're completely grown up, you know everything, but actually, in fact, you're clueless about life and you know nothing. And I think that portrayal is incredibly well done, but in terms of being a summer book, it's very atmospheric, of a kind of summer by the Riviera, summer in Paris. I think they go to Nice, maybe, they go to Cannes. I actually think the characters from these books are hot girls. They are having a hot girl summer. So although I maybe can't teach you about having a hot girl summer, I think both of the heroines of Françoise Sagan in these books can maybe teach you about having a hot girl summer. So if you want a hot French girl summer, this is the book for you. And my final vibey summer choice is Tangerine by Christine Mangan. This is set in 1956 in Morocco. This is about 2 friends and a kind of obsessive friendship, which, due to events that happened in the past, a horrible incident happened and they were kind of driven apart. But we see them come back together in Morocco and try to unravel what happened. What was this horrible incident? What happened? And what is really going on here? Who is telling the truth? There is an unreliable narrator, a kind of old school unreliable narrator. It's basically a character-driven psychological thriller with a lot of unsettled vibes, kind of what's going on, who's telling the truth, what was this terrible event that drove these friends apart? Do they actually have ulterior motives? Who's telling the truth? All of these kind of things. I really enjoyed this. I've read it super quickly. I felt like it was a real page turner, as cliche as that sounds, but it does have all of the elements of a classic holiday read. It's intrigue, psychological thriller, lying, unreliable narrator, all set to a scorching hot background of Morocco. Absolutely perfect. Really enjoyed this, so I hope you will too. So these are my recommendations for vibey summer reads. I hope that whether it's summer for you now or not, maybe this will give you a hint of summer that you're looking for. But I kind of figured that you can get new reads from anywhere. Any media source will tell you about the new books. Like, I'm reading them at the same time as you are. I'm not magic. So I kind of wanted to highlight some older books that maybe you hadn't got around to, because there's just so much stuff coming out all the time, and maybe you'd overlooked a couple of these things. And also because they're older, you can easily get them from the library or secondhand or from charity shops, all of which I think are very good ways to proceed. So I hope you enjoyed this. Please let me know what you think. And if you've got any other summer book recs, summer's only just begun. There's plenty of time to read them all. So give me your summer book recs. I hope wherever you are, the weather is good to you and you've got some great plans ahead of you. I'm not planning to do anything. I'm just going to lie around and read books. So that's my big summer plan for all my time off. And frankly, I can't wait. So I will catch you next time. Thank you so much for joining me. I will see you in the next video.